Hello, Black Rose Writing authors. I think we're live now. What a beautiful day to go live. Let's see if we can get anyone in here and see if it's working now. I know I've already gotten a few emails, but we are live and it's make sure that it's working before we start expanding on this. Um, so I have the viewers coming in now. Please comment if everything seems to be working properly, and then we'll get rolling. Good morning, Dan. My neighbor Dan McDowell is in. Um, okay, our uh, true story, true crime author, or however you want to tell it, Marissa Burke is in. Okay, it's great. Everyone can hear. I think everyone's good to go. We'll get rolling. Um, First thing I wanted to touch on is we had a pretty awesome celebration this recent at the end of 2021, and I we pulled some interesting facts, and so I was going to share those with our authors because I just thought they were really cool. Um, the first thing is we've published 1,516 authors in Black Rose Writing history. 6.1%, which equals 92 of those authors, are from outside of the United States. Nine of those authors have had the surname Smith, and eight of them have had the surname Brown. If you add an E on the end of Brown, then we've had nine. We've also published an Eric Keller with a K and then Eric Keller with a C. Um, and we've also published a Daniel Schinker and a David Schlinker. So our staff does a wonderful job keeping those um, from not being too confusing. Some of our cool lifetime numbers are our first royalty period in 2008, we actually paid out $21.10. So just to show kind of how far we've come in the growth. We also sold our first ebook on Amazon December 2009, and then we ended up selling 12 ebooks for that period. And just to kind of put that in perspective, we sold 7,053 ebooks last November 2021. So a dramatic difference there in growth. And some other last monthly and daily records is we had 3.9 million Kindle Unlimited pages read in September 2021. Um, we also have had 188,466 Kindle Unlimited pages read in one day, which equals 628 books read cover to cover if a book is measured on about 300 pages. So those are pretty awesome numbers, and just want to say congratulations again to author Joe Seipel. As of December 2021, we've sold over 50,000 copies of The Five Wishes of Mr. Murray McBride. Um, yeah, also wanted to talk about um, Shari Smith's children's group does a Zoom monthly meeting, and I was able to join that this last Saturday. It was super wonderful. Um, I would recommend if any author of any genre is comfortable doing like a Zoom meeting, doing anything along those lines, I would strongly recommend trying to set up more genre-based groups. So say you're like a thriller author and you write thrillers and you really want to network with our fellow authors, someone take the lead, set up a group, reach out to fellow authors and see if we can get monthly or bi-monthly meetings set up where authors of the same genre can kind of talk about strategies and um, things that have worked for them. Uh, I got a couple. I thought these were cool just to share while we're on video. But if you haven't done a magazine ad, effectiveness is still something we're determining, but this is our Strand magazine, one of our editions, and you can kind of see the Strand magazine ad there with our titles in it, 2-page there. And then we also had Moment magazine, Moment actually just inside the cover. We've got some Black Rose writing titles, um, so that's pretty cool as well. Um, and the other thing I was going to talk about before I start getting to some of our questions, and if you have a question, you can please go ahead and comment those, ask those right now. Was Kindle Vella. I know recently, I know a lot of our authors have read my short story, possible novel, dystopian tale that's on Kindle Vella. I did that as some testing for authors, and I think if you've got any material that relates, if you write a series, say you write a fantasy series and you've got like a side story that maybe not long enough to put in the full series or write a book out of, but might be interesting to your readers, I think using Kindle Vella would be a good option to continue, marketing your books in that manner. So please, good morning again to all. I see everyone posting. Please, if you've got any questions, fire those out. I'm going to start going through some of our questions from some of our authors that were already sent in. Um, yeah, Jack Polo asks a quick question on how do you determine to publish a book or not. Any books you passed on that you now regret? Well, I don't know about the regret because I really haven't, I don't really recall, so I'm kind of in the dark on that. But if I saw one of our authors become like an Oprah book club pick or a bestseller, and it was like, or one of the books we rejected, and it was like, wait a minute, I know I rejected that book, then yeah, that might be the case. But otherwise, no. Um, and determining whether we're going to publish a book or not. If you're a new author, a new writer, it's very competitive now. Thankfully, we're able to be very selective on our titles, and we have a really great acquisitions review team, and and so it's just a matter of you've got to make the best first impression on your submission form or query. That's it. You've got to stand out. Michelle Pettit asks, "What is the charge to change cover copy?" So if you're still in pre-order stage, we are covering the first revision, whether it's interior cover. If you are past that stage or post-release, the typical revision cost is about $50. Um, and so you just kind of have to base, how if it's just a blurb or a view from somebody that nobody really knows, maybe not so much. If it's something that could actually improve your cover and wherever your cover is, if it could improve your click-through rate for ads, then it's probably worth it. Carrie Moser, good morning. Carrie's question is, what is the deadline to submit to Black Rose Writing in order to publish a book in 2022? Well, the deadline is now. We are through October on our 2022 calendar. So we're looking at filling the last 2 months of this year for authors with the ability to send us a final manuscript by March to April 2022, and then we'll be able to get those on our calendar for this year. So just if you're ready, send me an email. David Radman's question is, what is the cost of a magazine ad? It just depends. I know some of them we're able to take those spreads and pay for the whole spread, and then we break it down and share some of that cost with our authors. But it's usually between like $150 to $250 for a title. That's about the average, I would think. Bruce Lewis, Bruce, can you be more, what does it cost to produce a book? Can you be more specific um, on that? Because there's a lot of different factors that we could go into. on the production? Are you talking about how much time is spent from the beginning of time to the actual final book? Or are you talking about like just printing the book, etc.? What is my opinion on book talk? I think our authors should give it a shot. I've watched a few videos on it. This would be probably a better question to email to Christopher Miller, PR at blackrosewriting.com. Um, but I mean, I think it's another channel, and I know that there's been some writers take off using book talk and be able to uh, reach different people using that form of social media. So it's worth a try. Bruce Lewis. I mean, the cost is infinity because I've got to spend time putting contract together, doing all of our informative and educational packets and rolling from there all the way to our cover design, editing, formatting to actually distributing, paying distribution fees and editing and everything along those lines. Um, how much do I need to make to recover? We need to sell a ton of books. I mean, a ton. No, I'm just kidding. Um, there really isn't a magic number that we go off of. Our goal is just um, to sell as many books as we can, and if our authors are working hard and we're trying different things, and uh, whatever reason the product is just not either in the right marketplace or just not good for the market, then it happens. Sometimes you don't sell as many books as you hope for, but collectively, our focus is selling more books for all of our titles because we have not increased our release calendar in the last few years. We're publishing the same amount of books as we did 3 years ago, actually less than we did maybe 4 years ago, and so our staff um, is well adapted to handle the load we currently have. Trevor De Silva is asking about short stories, and do we plan on publishing or accepting those? I still personally think that a short story collection needs to come from an author that has a large following already. If you don't have a large following, then it's probably not worth publishing. It'd be better to continue to market and expand on the novels. But yeah, there's a few authors I would probably accept short story collections from because I know they have a big enough following where readers would buy that just because they want to read something else from those authors. Uh, Brooke French has a good question. Is there anything an author can do to increase their chance to get picked up for audio? Well, the simple answer is sell more books. But um, otherwise, no. From our standpoint, we pitch all of our titles. It's kind of if the book has a lot of great reviews and is has a good sales rank on Amazon, I know potential narrators that would definitely increase their chances of picking up a book. Um, but for titles that are still early on, it's more of just matching the right narrator, that reads it and is like, man, I really want to narrate this book. Craig Stovka uh, talks has sent in a question about a local newspaper wanting to interview him, but they said they can't do it until after the book is released, and wanted to know if this is common to the industry or just local media being quirky. And I don't have an answer for that. I would not see why they couldn't do the interview, especially if your book is in pre-order and available for people, where you have an actual link to your book and people can go on and order it now. I would think that they would that should be something that's green lighted. Marianne Noe wants to know, how do you handle staff vacations? I hope you get to take some. We don't have any vacations at Black Rose Writing. All of our staff is required to work every day, 365 days a year. And Yeah, no vacations. Otherwise, they go work somewhere else. Um, Marlis Broadhead, how can we determine the best list to get on for more exposure? What kind of lists are you referring to? Can you type in more specific? Because I don't know what lists you're talking about. Um, Carol Parr has a question for me. How are you feeling after your heart surgery? Are you staying healthy? Yes, and I'm feeling great. Thank you for asking. For new authors, I did have my third open heart surgery last uh, over a year ago now, and I'm doing very well, so no issues there. Okay, Marlis, how to determine the best list for reviews and sales. Um, so I mean, I reviews are going to be, getting, awards and reviews that are related to your genre and your target audience. I think that's going to be the most beneficial. And in terms of sale lists, I mean, it's just going to be, Amazon ranking, Barnes and Noble ranking, and things like that. Um, Jackie Hertz, what about awards of professional reviews? All good, but they kind of create the whole package. And so you want to have, um, if you just have an award or you just have some great professional reviews, but you don't have Amazon reviews and you don't have some other, great synopsis, great cover, then they don't tend to necessarily directly help with book sales. But when you put them all together, then you can kind of really create some good conversion and good organic sales and drive traffic to your Amazon product page or Barnes and Noble. So having all of those can be helpful. You don't need to spend a ton or you don't need to go out of the way to try to stack on, I want to win all of these awards or I want to have tons of professional reviews because at the end of the day, most readers, the average reader just they're going to read the Amazon ratings and reviews and read through those, and that's where they're going to put their most weight in. They don't really care what Kirkus has to say about your book. Michelle Pettit, do we just learn to live with typos after the book has been released? Well, it depends on how much it's going to take away from the reading of the book. So I read a lot of best-selling authors, and I'm very confident that I find errors in pretty much every book I read, something that could even be a little subjective, but um, it's not taking away from my reading experience. Now, if I'm reading page one and there's six misspelled words or just content error or the story falls apart because there's a major error, like if you're writing historical fiction and something, you're talking about driving in your Ford in 1887, then yeah, those are going to really take away from my overall enjoyment of reading a book. But think of how you read a book. I mean, if you find a couple of small edits in a book, that's not going to make the story any less valuable, in my opinion. It doesn't take away from it. So um, I would just recommend, what you're comfortable with, and if you make a list of those edits, doing a second printing at one time can always be beneficial. Uh, Brooke French is asking about the timeline leading up to our pub dates in terms of production, marketing, and publicity. And so we send that out. I mean, I'll see if I can even pull it up, but that's something we've sent out in our promotional welcome kit to all of our authors in the production timeline. And that production timeline is really spot on. I mean, it's the target goal is for authors to get in their material by their final manuscript questionnaire by their contract due date, and then our team is trying to get you your book block, which is your formatted book, and your initial cover design and draft 6 months prior to release date. And when that happens, when the authors communicate well, and then we get through line editing, In most cases, we're getting a lot of authors' books in pre-order 3 to 4 months in advance, and that's going to leave a really good window for pre-order, a good window for catching anything that's last minute revision, and also really good for pre-publicity marketing and sending to those reviewers that accept really want books way before the release date. But again, the in the welcome kit, which we send via Mailchimp, I'm not sure if you've got it yet, but there is a timeline for production, and it's really well done. Phyllis Malhado, what is the best way to get that all important word of mouth going? I think the word of mouth happens the most when the book is really, really unforgettable. Word of mouth doesn't happen. I mean, you can spread the word, like if you post on Facebook to all of your friends, and all your friends are like, "Yeah, I read her book, but I mean, it's okay." Um, that is gonna limit the word of mouth. Um, but whenever you get get that response where someone reads this and they've got to tell someone about how great it is immediately, that's where the word of mouth is really going to take off. Bruce Lewis, how much promotional budget should you plan for? It just depends again on what's going on with your book and what's being successful. Um, you know, with the collaborative marketing with Black Rose Writing, I know a lot of authors have invested in themselves, and now they don't need to anymore because Black Rose Writing can very much invest in their work. Because we're running ads and we're doing things marketing wise that are very successful, and so we can just keep pumping that out, and the author can keep writing books. Um, Wayne Termel, if your book comes out at the end of the year, what is your thought on submitting for awards? Do you do it in the pub year or the following year? I think it just depends on the award deadline. If as long as your book is eligible for a certain award and fits the copyright, then yeah, I think go for it. Marissa Burke, Marissa's book is doing very great. Just checking scores is the title. We've got some ads running for it, and her local and regional publicity has been really strong. Her question is, how do I collaborate with your PR about getting book out nationally? That's a good question. If you've got any ideas, send them to Chris Miller. Um, but otherwise, I think what happens is a lot of times, that local, I always tell authors, start local, start regional, doing book events and creating that snowball effect where you can expand from there. I know with our online advertising, we're hitting national. Um, it might just be reaching out to venues that are similar to the ones that have already been open to doing events and doing media, and just building off of that. Julie Schlack, do you have any suggestions for how to get our books into the hands of book groups? That's a good question. We've tried a lot of different tactics on book clubs, reaching book clubs, and again, I think it's just a matter of finding a book club and doing your research on what books they like to read, and making sure that your book is a really great fit, and then just sending them a pitch, or sending us a pitch and having our PR team send that out, and see if we can request that they pick up copies of your book to do maybe a book club reading and a discussion on. Cody Thompson, one of our new horror authors, has a question on thoughts on reaching out to working with Instagram influencers to share and post about a book once released. Yes, that's a wonderful thing to do, especially in your genre, of course. And again, um, please feel free to email Chris Miller our social media, and he can give you probably some good pointers. I know in our welcome kit emails, you'll also get an email on using social media like Instagram as well, and some of the pros and cons. Um, John Lenore, do book orders directly that are ordered direct from Black Rose Writing count um, towards sales for Amazon ratings? No, they don't. So there's some pros and cons. Books that are ordered directly from Black Rose Writing are going to end up being, most cases going to be end up being the most profitable for the author and for the publisher in terms of the net royalty. And they do count towards book sales, but for Amazon ratings, those would just be, or rankings, those would be off Amazon book sales. Laurel Osterkamp with a question on, do you have any suggestions for how to approach non-Black Rose writing authors, like bestsellers in our genre, to see if they read and provide a blurb to recommend it? Mine would just be research contact info, research their site info, and then send them the nicest inquiry and ask for their, consideration as respectfully and politely as you can. Let them know why your book would be something that you think they would enjoy based on maybe their own writing, or if you follow them and you're familiar with what they like to read, then that would be, a really good conversation starter. Jackie Hertz, what level does the author have to be before Black Rose Writing takes over the publicity? Well, we publicize all of our novels and we market all of our novels at all times. Even, I mean, we've got novels that are 8 years old that we're, still finding different channels and trying different marketing tactics. Um, so if it's specific, such as like an Amazon ad, if we can get an Amazon ad running successfully, then that's something that then obviously we would take over that, and there wouldn't be anything required from the authors from that end. Bruce Lewis, bookstores usually want discounts. Do you offer them discounts and how much? Yes, and I said we've really um, we've really worked on this and try to get this to all of our authors, but the first point of contact for bookstores should always be contacting sales at blackrosewriting.com and working directly, because it's so much easier to get them copies and to get them a discount that either meets or exceeds their normal discounts. If they're just not open to that, then the other option would be ordering through Ingram, which then we can discuss making your book have that full discount and also be returnable. Locus Magazine, again, would be a better question for our PR team, who submits a majority of our titles for their consideration. But that is a good um, a good place to get another review from for sure. So Bookstagram, yeah, we got some issues going there. Greg Hoover, does Black Rose Writing have a legal resource or team to advise or review true crime manuscripts to help avoid potential lawsuits? We don't really have a team that's going to view it from a legal standpoint, because again, only the author knows the accuracy and what they write. So my advice on that would be, uh, if it's something that requires permission from someone to post or to use, then you should always seek those permissions. But otherwise, if you're telling the truth, then that's always going to be hard, um, to for someone to have a legal claim against. Linda uh, Rosen has a question for Dave on, how does Dave come up with book covers? Well, in our new submissions and our new authors, we have a wonderful cover design form with some notes that's going to give Dave some really in-depth um, concepts and some ideas to generate from that. But yeah, he reads the synopsis and just kind of gets a feel for the genre, um, and goes from there. Another question from Julie is, what's the benefit of doing a Kindle giveaway promotion? Kindle ebook promotions for new authors and new books are still the number one greatest thing you could ever do. Um, it is it's so advantageous because you're reaching, you're getting Amazon ranking, which is going to boost your book for a period. You're getting incredible numbers in terms of your book getting in front of a lot of readers who are, adding it to their Kindle or device, and you're going to gain, in most cases, you're going to gain a really good amount of new Amazon reviews, and you're also going to get Amazon Kindle Limited Pages read, and then that's going to lead to more book sales. So all of it creates a really good effect, and it sets your book, your Amazon product page up really well for future promotions. And for example, if say you're trying to market your book on Facebook and your book has, one review, it's just really hard for people to go to that and be like, I'm going to buy that book. It's got one review. It's just really difficult for them to make that decision to buy your book. Whereas doing the giveaway, if that one review can now be 24 reviews, and people are leaving some good personable text, uh, you know, phrases in that review that are hitting people's, what they're looking for, then the chance of them converting on future marketing is going to be much greater. And in terms of like successful for ebook giveaway, it just depends on the budget. Smaller budget, sometimes you can get 1,000 to 3,000. Larger budgets, 3,000 to 10,000 giveaways, and then I know with some of our authors, Black Rose has been able to land some really good BookBub featured deals for free in genres like historical or women's or thrillers, and we've gotten 25, 30,000 downloads, and those can really, I mean, it can change a book forever, make it become a really, you know, factor in the publishing competitive marketplace. Um, so back to the bookstore orders, Michelle, I would it depends. If they want a consignment and they're with an author directly and they're giving you a deal where you're not losing money or feeling like you're not benefiting, then that's a good option. But if you think if you want Black Rose to handle it, then just have them contact our sales team, and we can handle that. And then you get paid royalties and you don't have to worry about it. Um, Wayne Termal. Yeah, I mean giveaways and promotions, that's all through me. That's all here right now. So whatever you got, I mean, fire it away. Let's see. I'm trying to get to some other Anoop Judge's question that she sent me by email is with the country going into a pandemic for the third year, what does the future hold for book readings in bookstores? And again, I think being creative is going to be very necessary and timing. But my key advice is again focus on the online virtual book sales, networking online, developing trust and relationships with readers in that manner. And then if you're able to do book events, then that's great. But I mean, I just wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket in terms of doing a lot of book events. I think it's going to be again hit or miss and up to the bookstores. Bruce Lewis is asking, how do we get a book club deal? You cross your fingers. You sell more books, do more marketing, which leads to hopefully a better product page, more Amazon reviews. Um, we have a great cover, we have a great synopsis, and then our team's going to submit to BookBub, and then it's up to them. Their editors select what they think is good for their readers. Um, in bouncing off of the ebook giveaways, Jackie Hertz is asking how often do you recommend? I recommend doing one every usually 4 to 6 months is kind of the ideal for either a giveaway or doing like a 99-cent promotion, like a Kindle countdown deal. But you usually don't want to do it within that time frame just because you're gonna reach a lot of the same readers, and tend to get not as much bang for your buck. Um, so yeah, Wayne, quarterly, yeah, quarterly or biannually, anything. All you've got to do is email me. Let me know. Um, what your budget is or what you have in mind in terms of your next promo, and we'll get it scheduled. Um, David, Robin has a question on how far in advance of my launch date will I be able to post my cover on social media? Usually 3 to 4 months. Again, it depends on when you get your front cover approved with our design team. But once it's approved, then you've got a green light to start sharing that to your followers. Um, Jeannie Rory, yes, they can has a question on what kind of discount do we give bookstores? They can't order from Ingram at the usual discount. Well, our online discount is not designed for bookstore orders. If we put our normal discount, then yes, they can order through Ingram without any red flags. Um, but we also have to deal with returns, and sometimes it's not advantageous for authors. But if any time an author has some book events and they've got bookstores that are interested in doing book events, then then by all means, shoot me an email and we can see if we can figure that out. But our discount from our sales team, the simplest way to put it is that we'll meet or exceed their discounts. We've never not been able to give them a discount that they would get through Ingram or through any other distribution partner directly. JC Paulson, how soon after a book launch should one try an ebook giveaway? I'm usually good with, we usually schedule them, if an author signs up while they're in pre-order, we usually try to schedule them 3 weeks or further out, maybe even 2 weeks is okay because if you, from a marketing standpoint, by that time, you know, usually an author has reached out to everyone they want to tell the book about. We've reached out to our followers, our subscribers, and done our marketing. And so usually after a couple of weeks after a book's been out, if someone was going to buy the book that would now get it for free, they've probably already bought the book during that window. And so then it's okay to do the free giveaway because now you're going to be reaching other readers who might not necessarily want to buy the book but want to give it a shot for free. Brooke French, how many books do we need to have in our own stock? As many as you can put in your house, or where if you got to rent a storage room and fill it up with books, then as many as you can take on. Uh, no, I mean I think it's just again, it's if you really think you've got some, if maybe you're doing a book release party and you've got some local venues like clubs or chambers or restaurants or fun places that you can do some wine tasting and book reading or like a book release party, then having more books is advantageous. Otherwise, I think just having a few books in stock is always nice. That way you have copies, and if you never know when you might meet someone that really wants to read your book and wants a signed copy. The average order placed by Black Rose Writing authors, I for books, I maybe 50 to 100 copies. I'm not sure what that number would be. Let's see. Muriel Pritchett has some emailed questions about that she read that Publisher Weekly says that print sales were up in 2021. Is Black Rose Writing publishing more books than ever? We're selling more books than ever. We're not publishing more books. We're still publishing an average of 4 books a week. That is our goal again for 2022. Um, but in terms of selling, we had probably our biggest print sales month in our history in December of 2021. Um, and so that's something that's going great, and that's we're continuing to advertise that heavily. It seems like the print book is making a good return alongside uh, Kindle books and other options, audiobooks. Um, Marianne, yes, with words of wisdom, never go anywhere without a bag of books in your car. Those are good trunk, something good to carry in the trunk of your car, and you've always got a book on hand. Jeffrey Conkle, that is a great question. Do we just keep promoting book one even as book three is releasing? Um, so I've reached out to a lot of trusted marketers in the industry, and we've also back tested a lot of this data. And the answer always comes back to marketing book one seems to be the most effective. We've tried running ebook promotions for book three with like book one and two maybe discounted. We've tried advertising, running ads for books three, books four, and it always reverts back to write the new books, spend time and money marketing book one. I mean, obviously you're announcing, hey, my new book just came out, start this new series or whatever if you're a series writer, but it makes it real simple. I mean, I think advertising book one with having books two, three, four discounted during that promo tends to generate just the most massive results. Um, and then is there book awards and competitions out there to cater to series? There are, and I can't think of one specifically. Maybe Eric Hoffer, but there are some other book awards that you just have to check the categories that do have like a series category, and so those are pretty cool to enter. Otherwise, I think the right wording would be if you won an award for book one, you could always say award-winning series, or you could always put that on your new book's metadata, in terms of marketing is, this series won this award because it is accurate to say, that's your series um, has been collecting awards along the way. David Bullock says, I have trouble getting Amazon reviews because many of my readers do not have Amazon accounts. Any suggestions? That's a great question. Um, the first suggestion would be to get those readers to post on Goodreads. Goodreads continues to grow in terms of actually generating book sales than ever before. Readers use Goodreads to buy books, and so if you're having trouble or if you get reviews getting pulled from Amazon, I mean that happens. It's okay. Uh, get them to go to Goodreads. Tell them, sign up for Goodreads, post it on there. There's not as many restrictions. Anyone can post a review. And then the other option would be tell them to post on, their social media or send just say write something up for them and send an email. Say, hey, I'd love for you to send this to your all your email friends or followers. If you really like my book, can you please recommend it to some of your friends and people that you have in your network? Yeah, Goodreads is number one. Scott, I'm not sure of the video cutting out. Um, there will be a downloadable version and a link after this is done, so I'm going to send that to all of our authors as well. Um, so that would be a good opportunity for you to watch it again. Pamela Taylor says the Next Generation Indie Book Awards has a series category. Thank you, Pamela, and thank you for joining us. Um, Trevor De Silva, does having taglines on the front cover help with sales? So if you're referring to like a um, just like a brief line, a pitch, what your book is about, then I think it can be, especially if your cover might not be uh, perfectly in sync with the genre. For example, like if you just have a cover that's got like an item on it, and like if you're a reader and you picked it up and you're like, I don't know what genre this would be, then having your book title and then having it followed by, love knows no boundaries, or a psychological thriller, that's going to help readers immediately know exactly what your book is about, and they don't have to go any further. Um, so yeah, if you've got a good line or a good subtitle, I definitely think that can help with cover conversion. Or if your cover says exactly what your book is about, then that kind of covers it. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're helping design covers with David King and our design team is, have friends or fellow readers or even our authors look at your book cover and say, what genre do you see, without them knowing, because that's important. You don't want a cover to look like it's sweet romance and it's supposed to be, very steamy and dark romance. I mean, because then you're just turning off your audience. It's not going to buy that book based on your cover. Um, Charles Damikos, what about Nook? A good outlet? Yeah, we don't use Nook much. I mean, we can go wide, but KDP Select continues to generate more revenue and more media marketing attention for authors than having the book on Nook and Google Play and some of the other outlets. Um, in terms of doing book events, do you use Square or credit card swipers or just take cash? Square is an excellent option for doing book events and book signings. That way, it's the same with books. You want to have, if you got a Kindle or you got a Kindle ebook, you got a paperback, maybe a hardcover, maybe an audiobook, you're giving everyone different ways to consume uh, your book in their preferred media. And the same thing with buying it. You don't ever want to leave yourself not having options for somebody. I mean, obviously, most people do have cash, but you don't want to miss a book sale because they want to pay with their credit card. Um, Zimmerman with a comment on book reviews. Yes, you will know that your family and friends who told you they bought your book and left a review are liars, and they're not always accurate. Um, yeah, not as many. If 10 people said, yes, I've read your book or I bought it and I left a review, it's not going to be 10 out of 10. Linda Rosin with a, do you think book trailers sell more books? I don't believe so. I haven't really seen it. Maybe if you just have a really awesome book trailer and you're reaching a very large audience, but I don't think you should spend money on it until it reaches, I mean, a certain stage. I mean, if your book is, really is generating a lot of sales and daily ranking on Amazon and it's got a big following and maybe you have a film or TV coming up about your book, then obviously that would make a whole big difference. But I haven't really seen too much on just book trailers converting to book sales. Um, Bruce Lewis, how are audio sales going? Our audio sales are going great. We've been growing, getting more audio sales every 6 months, so every royalty period, and getting more books in audio. Audio has a wonderful place in the book industry, the same as ebooks did when they first came in. They're all friends now. Print and digital and audio have become these three best friends, and they allow people to take in your book any way they can on the go. David Radman, talking about creating trailers or videos for children's books. Um, Contract wise, it's typically, I think it's 10%. So showing a few images of your book, one, two, three, would be probably within those guidelines. If you shoot me an email and ask for permission, the answer is usually yes, because a lot of times, we'll do a little more and show more of the book. And for children's book, it's a little different. Even if somebody sees the whole book in a video, I don't think that's going to, cause them to be like, oh, I'm not going to buy this book because I've seen it all. They're usually going to buy the book for their children who want to hold the book and reread the book. I mean, that's the ultimate um, staple of a good children's book is the readability. It should be able to be reread multiple times. Royalty periods are in February and August. Royalty statements will be sent in January by the end of this month, and then also sent in July. Justin Weeks in our sales team is he hasn't slept in like a week. I make him work 24 hours as he is doing the royalties right now. He is allowed zero breaks. We just keep feeding him high sugar foods and making him drink coffee so he can keep doing royalties. Let's see. Emailed questions. Muriel Pritchett what's asked what's our best five best-selling genres for Black Rose writing. I think that's a tough question because obviously one book can kind of set this off. So if you had like we've got some true crime books that are really selling well, like Kimberly Tilly, Marissa Burke, John O'Brien, and Lisa Peebles. Um, and so those are all selling well, but in terms of the full genre, we don't have as many as we would like thriller, mystery, romance. So I think the five genres. I mean, if you just go, the list is pretty much similar in terms of mystery, romance, thriller, fantasy, sci-fi, and that's pretty much I think the big five. And then historical and adventure, women's. Those are all kind of young adult kind of fall right below those. JC Paulson wants to know if we can use book snippets in our social media and advertising. Yes, contractually you're up to use 10%. You're allowed to use up to 10% of your book. So posting a free chapter, um, posting some really cool. If you've got some cool quotes or some really cool things in your book that might really turn a reader on, that's great social media content. 5 Hour Energy is Justin Weeks' friend. Yeah, get to work, no breaks. All right, let's see any other emailed questions here. I've gotten to a few of them. I've still got a lot to go here, but time-wise, we're gonna wrap this up in a bit. So let's get all the questions in. Um, Cody Thompson, what are your thoughts on signed book plates? That's a good question. I haven't really used them a lot. It's a cool concept. Anything I think that's book related and signed can be beneficial, and they do add that personal touch to a book. I would save these for really power readers. If you think someone is really good at marketing you and your book, then that would be a good option for them. Michelle Pettit with the question of what is a realistic yearly number of book sales for a debut author. So I usually look at it in stages. Um, the first stage that we always kind of at Black Rose Writing is hitting the 50 to 100 book sales mark. Now, for a lot of times, new authors' expectation I think is set higher than that, so that number can be shocking. But once you've sold 50 to 100 copies, you can pretty much rule out family and friends and kind of those obligatory sales. And now you're starting to reach new readers, people who had no idea who you were as an author before, maybe have never met you, no clue. And so that's kind of our initial goal is, once we get past those marks, you're looking at 250 to 500 book sales, which are really good milestones. And then, once you start getting those numbers, your Amazon ratings, your product page, word of mouth, all those things can kick in and just kind of create momentum. And that's what happens with a lot of our books. We've had books have less than 20 reviews on Amazon for a year or two, and then they either the right marketing or the right tactic will just set it off, and they go from 20 reviews to 75 to 150, and now they have over 500 or 1,000 reviews, and they got all those in like a 3 month period. Um, a good question from Gohan Nikolic is what is the best way to advertise an audiobook? Um, for us, still, our main audiobook advertising is just advertising the Kindle and print version. So if we're advertising the ebook and print version and reaching readers, most of the time, I myself included, will go on and buy a book. Sometimes I buy a Kindle book and I read it on my phone. And then if there is an audio option, if I really want to listen to that book, maybe when I'm riding my bike or doing something else, driving, then I can purchase the audiobook and have both of those options to consume a book. So I think the best advertising is just, again, it kind of falls in line. And we haven't really used a lot of audio specific marketing, where it's just advertising for audiobooks. A good question. This is a good question on our print quality. Um, so we sent out an email recently, and we were talking about the difference in the new paper for Ingram, which has a lot of mixed feelings. The new Ingram paper is a little thinner. It's a little more gray. It makes the book weigh less. And so from a quality standpoint, I've still not seen any issues with just our standard novels and paperbacks. And and they do cut down on our shipping costs, especially on larger orders. It's still something that we're juggling. I know even it's not just Black Rose Writing using this groundwood paper. It's also Random House, Penguin. Some of the big guys are using it. Um, Hatchet, Simon Schuster. So it's something that I'm not sure. We've got some paper shortages, and anything that we can do to keep our print books competitive, where it doesn't become just a digital industry, is steps that I think we need to take. Anything that can help our paper industry. Um, but yeah, so hopefully that's something that continues to improve as our world hopefully opens back up. In terms of audiobook production, the audiobook does sync with our ebook, as long as there's an audio format. So your narrator narrates it, then people have the option they can buy either one, and then it'll automatically narrate from the ebook version, if they go that route. Our audiobooks are made by, we pitch them to our narrators that we have. We have our own freelance narrator, and we also have narration partners, such as Beacon Audiobooks and some other ones, Tanter Media. And as their narrators select or pick up an audiobook, then we go from there. Rebecca Warner with the question on, do you think hardbacks sell enough to justify the cost for setting up? What is that amount? I think our current, if you want a case laminate hardcover, which is basically matches your paperback, but it's got the hard shell around it. They're beautiful books. They're of great quality. I think our current setup is 174, and if you want a full jacket with the jacket wrap and cover, I think the setup is like 229. Um, I personally, if your book is selling well as a paperback, I think it's worth it. If you're right now still trying to get the paperback, an ebook to improve sales, or trying to work on ads, then you might wait on that. But if you're selling copies, if you're getting daily sales of ebook and paperback, then I personally think it's worth it, giving readers that other option. And it's amazing how many readers still love a hardback edition, and they're willing to pay for that. They will bypass the other two just so they can get the hardcover. So if you're interested in that, you can email sales@blackrosewriting.com. All right, we've got a couple of minutes until the 1 hour mark, and then we are going to call it. So any last questions, please post. I'm checking to see if there's any other questions that we had submitted. There's one about Bruce Lewis is talking about the budget sweet spot, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. They're really, I don't think there's really a sweet spot, but I think it's always better to maximize versus minimize in terms of budget, because of the snowball effect it creates. And so for an ebook promotion, doing for example, if you do a $200 ebook promo versus a $400, you're not getting double the value. You're getting way more than double the value for $400, because of the amount of momentum and the sales ranking and the extended amount of promotion. So the larger the budget, it can really do well. Um, Bruce Lewis has a question on, I think it's how about adding the first chapter of the book to the second book or vice versa. I'm not sure if I'm getting that question right. But if you're thinking of like the second book and adding, or the first book and adding the first chapter of the second book, then yeah, that's a good that's always not a bad idea of putting your first chapter in the back of the first book. Um, Mary Ellen Bramwell wants me to repeat the stats, and yes, I can do that. In the very beginning, we went over some cool stats. We've published 1,516 authors in our history. We 6.1% of those authors, which would be 92 of them, are from outside of the United States. So we've had 92 international authors. 270 of those authors have published more than one title with Black Rose Writing, which is something that I'm is probably one of my more proud accomplishments. Um, as you know, the want to publish another title with Black Rose Writing is much greater than the lack thereof, and we appreciate that. And I know we don't always publish all of our authors' second, third, fourth books, but when we do, we very much appreciate it because we know those relationships are becoming extremely important to us, and we've got a really good thing going. Um, we've had our first royalty period. We paid out $21.10 in 2008, and in December of 2009, we sold 12 ebooks that month in total. All of our authors sold 12 ebooks. And this last November 2021, we sold 7,053 ebooks on Amazon. So a big change. Um, some of our monthly and daily records, we've had 3.9 million. We had 3.9 million KU pages read in September 2021 for all of our authors, and our daily record is 188,466 pages read one day. And again, last but not least, Joe Seipel, I congratulated. Five Wishes of Mr. McBride has surpassed the 50,000 copies sold mark. Um, Let me see. Last question right here is Carolyn Clark wants to know, in Canada, if an author sells 5,000 copies of their book, is it considered a bestseller? Yes, I would consider that a bestseller. Bestseller is just going to be specific to, usually, to what channel you're selling it. Like a USA Today, New York Times. I mean, they have weird formulas built in. Um, but like Amazon, you could be in a specific category and be listed as a number one bestseller just by selling, 10 books in a day. And technically, you are a best-selling author. So it just depends on the venue. So again, thank you, authors. I will post the link to rewatch this video, and for any authors that couldn't join us. And I look forward to selling a lot of books in 2022.